All right. Unfortunately, we had to turn off the late great Bill Withers, but it's a lovely day outside, so I wanted to, spread some joy. Thank you all for signing on to listen to this. Lars, right before me, was fantastic. I picked up a few new tricks as well. I'm going to be talking about. My name's Will Corrigan, one of the assistant lacrosse coaches at Harvard University. Really excited to talk today about facing off. And I did a previous talk that spoke more about the totality of a face off, right? More than just a 1v1. I think that was the title of it. It was, episode 12 of the One Clip, One Drill series. Today, we're going to talk about more drills that high school coaches can give their kids, whether right now, if they have siblings, or during practice, if they're not a part of a full team drill. If you have two face-off guys, these are drills that they can do on their own, either with a coach, without a coach. If you can, add an extra guy, you only need, 2 to 3 guys to do these drills. So really excited to share these. I've picked some up from other coaches along the way, but they really helped us this year. And then I'll show, how they were used in games this year for our face-off guys. And I was really excited about the way that they, got better at these skills and we got to use them in game and we saw it in film. So, going into it here, not Bill Withers, but the first drill is called 50-50 defensive face-offs. And it doesn't need a drawing per se to go with it, because it's just two face-off guys lined up. And if you notice, they both start halfway over the ball. So it's really, you want to start like you're halfway into a face-off. If you just give them whistles every time, one, you need a coach there, and you may not have enough coaches on staff to be able to help them during practice. Maybe you have some time set aside for them, but they need more work than that sometimes. So they can do this without a coach, and they start 50-50, and on the whistle, they're going to compete like they're going for the ball. And the goal is you're going to tell one guy, hey, you're going to compete for 2 or 3 seconds, and then you have to get up and play defense. He's not even allowed to win it. And there's a multitude of ways to do this. The way we did this was we told one guy, and it will be Kyle Massimilian here, you have to get up and play defense after 2 or 3 seconds. So you treat it as realistic as you can for a face-off, and then you're live from there, right? So it's not completely live, but you can't always recreate this exact tie-up every time you blow a whistle. So in this drill, right, they're down, they get set. I don't have the audio going because it was a little off on the video, but you'll see, right, they go at this like they're competing. And Kooks knows, the player in white knows that he's winning, and Massey knows that he's not. So you can tell that in this realistic scenario, it looks like Kooks is getting over the ball, right? And the goal of this is, even if you're going to lose faceoffs, you don't want to give up fast breaks. You really don't want the ball to be going forward. So if we go back to where they were lined up, we don't want the ball going this way out of the faceoff, right? That means the ball's on their half, their attack are able to get involved. We want, and again, like we talked about in my previous episode, the ball to go this way. Even if they win, now they have to clear the ball. I'll show another drill that works on approaches, and it's a skill that you need to practice. It's not something that just guys innately know how to do. A lot of times they're so focused on the face-off, they kind of lose their heads when they come out of it once there's possession. So you really want to focus on making sure that they make the right approach. But the first thing is the footwork out of the face-off, right? So right now, Kooks has the ball. We continue to play, and we talk about, and this was really helpful for us, we talk about making the first move. So if you realize you're losing the face-off, which right here, we know we're going to lose this face-off if we haven't already, instead of trying to stay in there and grind longer and maybe get over top of the ball and maybe get back to 50-50, get to your feet, be an athlete. Both of our face-off guys are really good athletes, so we trust them to be able to compete even after they lose the clamp. So we talk about the first move, make the first move after you feel yourself losing. So right now it's probably 80-20. He's losing. Even at 60-40, we talk about it, or 70-30. Get up and make the first move. So he gets here, and his stick, instead of leaning over top of him, right? This is really hard. A lot of guys lean and end up getting a hold. They lean on top, or they try to throw this check, on top of his hands. They either throw here, right? They get in this area right here, which is a penalty if you're touching a face-off guy, or you're holding him down, or rattling him between his arms. All are penalties, right? They've made it really difficult for guys to compete for a face-off if they lose the clamp. So what we do, and we call this the tripod, right? You have a lot of guys, I know the Face-Off Academy guys talk about going belly to helmet, which would be, getting your belly, his belly to the helmet of this guy. I'm not as big a fan of that. I think that opens up too many exits. We actually talk about straddling, right? There's 3 points here. There's 1, right? 2 is his left foot, and 3 is his right foot. So we talk about that and moving with him so that he feels really uncomfortable, right? I mean, he's right on top of him. He's not leaning. He can't really go out forwards because you see Kyle's hands are ready to throw a check if the ball comes out that way. We'd like his feet to be a little closer together, right? We'd like him to be, here and here, so he's a little more athletic. It's kind of hard to be really athletic when your feet are outside your hips. But overall, this is a really good rep, right? And he forces Kooks back. He's able to throw this check, right? We know that Kooks is exiting, and he throws a check. You see right here on the head of his stick, all very legal. Now, at best, Kooks is getting the ball with pressure, with Kyle Massimilian, right, breathing down his neck, with our attackman jumping up from the top of the box, right? And we, there's drills to work on the other pieces of that. This is working on just that first instance of what happens when you're in a 50-50 and you start to lose. You get to your feet, right? Well, we see if we go back here, we're losing, get to our feet, get athletic, and then force the ball backwards, right? Now, a rep of this that's not as good, and I'll show you what I mean by them falling over, right, is Massey here. Same thing. Kooks gets over it right now. Again, Massey could try to rotate or saw and try to stay in this, but he's not going to. Partly because of the drill, partly because we want to work on not staying too focused on our hands, right, and being too forward on our hands here, and getting to our feet and making the next move, right? Making the first move. So he gets to his feet. Great position here. His feet are actually even a little closer, but as Kooks doesn't pull it out right away, he falls over top of him, and now this is a hold, right? Could it have been withholding on the white player, Cucurullo? Possibly, but I don't trust, referees to be able to make subtle calls like that. I think that's, it's just a really hard position to officiate. So what are they definitely going to see? They're definitely going to see the hold as he falls on top of him, right? So the coaching points of this drill are, you focus on making the first move for the defensive player. The offensive player focus on getting over top of the ball and exiting quickly, to make sure that he can't compete for the ground ball. And then finishing the play, and the offensive player, as he scoops it, getting over the midfield line, the defensive player not allowing him to get over the midfield line or making him double move, right? And we'll watch that now in a game scenario that Massimilian does a really good job. So this is against Albany, our game this year. It ended up being really good facing off. Kyle Massimilian had a great game, but when you went back and looked at the tape, it wasn't because we won every clamp. I think we did a really good job of competing. We won a good amount of clamps, which always helps. But the goal, as a face-off unit for us, is we still want to steal some possessions and win face-offs even when we're not winning clamps. So here, looks like Massey gets a good jump. Our wings are hip to hip. We know, and we've talked about it, that Massey's not going to let the ball go this way, right? We're letting him compete early, but if he starts to feel himself losing, he's getting to his feet and competing and forcing the ball backwards, right? So let's watch, gets to his feet. He's lost it. But again, we see a really good tripod stance. We can see just 1 here, 2, and 3 here is his right leg. And that's forcing him. He could try to exit this way, but knowing that, one, our wing guy was lined up right here to start, and knowing that Maximilian is able to throw a check and keep him from exiting cleanly that way, we suspect him to either go between his legs or defensive exit out this way, right? And I want you to watch. Massey's doing a great job, but also watch Frankie Tangretti does a really nice job of understanding what's happening in this scenario and making a break on the ball. So he pulls it between his legs, and Frankie now is right here, is going to be the first one to the ball, right? Massey does a great job of tying him up. We'll go back and watch that, right? You know, as you come back, Frankie pulls it between his legs, doesn't let him, and now a face-off that they should have won possession. They win the clamp, you know, do the hardest part of this. We end up with possession, and to be honest, we end up with a great shot that hits the pipe, right? We get really unlucky. So that's one drill that satisfies what do we do if we're losing clamps? How do we focus on the minute detail of competing for the ground ball, and how do we stay balanced during that process of a guy being over top of the ball and not panic just because we've lost the clamp. All right. So the next drill is what we call Deviljeebies, and partly because they are just cruel ground balls, and two, because I learned it actually from Brendan Fowler, who played at Duke. He said he had a tough time scooping up ground balls, you know, off of face-offs. So his coach devised this drill, and he's passed it on to me. And we do it just not only for our face-off guys, but for our wing guys and for our long pulls who are on the wing or who are doing ground balls whenever we do face-off work. So the quick setup, just to show you here, is there is a defender, 2 defenders about 2 yards away from the face-off man. You put a ball out in front of him. And again, if you just have 2 face-off guys, have one of your face-off guys pick up a long pole and just have him standing right behind the guy. You can have an outlet if you don't have an extra guy. Again, you can cater this to however many people you have. Ideally, you know, because we're doing it as a full team practice, we want to use a couple extra guys. So we end up using 4 guys in the drill. And we can do this, you know, in 3 or 4 different groups all over the field. So on the whistle, he's running and scooping this ball, and he is, you know, attempting to, you know, scoop this up and then make a big turn and get out and throw the ball here, right? So to watch the drill now, hold on, we seem to be having an issue. All right, and you can hear the communication here. We have an outlet, you know, if we go back just a second, Kyle Maximilian is the outlet for Cucurullo here. This was our first practice of the year on February 1st. And the goal is just to make this ground ball as difficult as possible. You know, we tell our defenders we don't want them hacking the guy. 1, that's not good habits for our defenders. And 2, there's no reason to beat up our face-off guys. The goal is to put pressure, poke the bottom hand, you throw checks, make this as uncomfortable of a situation as possible. So our face-off guys, when they get in a game and have these scenarios, they can scoop through the ball with ease, right? So as we watch, he gets a good start, and Kooks does a really good job of keeping his elbow really tight to his body. So this check from Ali Hollow is going to be, you know, do minimal damage, right? And his, you know, right arm is down, and the ball, his stick's kind of out in front of him more than off to one side. That way, you know, neither guy is going to be able to land a really effective check, right? So he scoops, and unfortunately, this is day 1 of practice, he doesn't get it right away, and that makes it a lot tougher. But what he does do, and this is really important in ground balls, right, is the ball keeps going his way. Too often, guys try to go at this and bat it one way, bat it this way, or, you know, stop over the ball and you know, get hacked. If you run through the ball and put your stick right on the ball, which he does, the ball is going to keep going his way. Now the momentum, his momentum, and the ball is going with him, and he's still running away from these 2 defenders, right? So he still has an opportunity to get away from these guys and scoop the ball. So he eventually gets possession, right? He escapes. puts a stick in his left hand, and Kyle Massimilian does a really good job of staying with him, communicating that he's all over his right shoulder, and Kooks is able to deliver a ball, right? A drill that doesn't take a lot of people. It doesn't take a lot of setup or a lot of equipment, right? It's just, just a ball and your guys. You don't need a goal. You can do it anywhere all over the field. And now we'll see this in action here. This is Kyle Massimilian against Fairfield. And what he's able to do off the face-off, he exits, pulls the ball back, and this is exactly that scenario. It's not as difficult, right? So he's used to having a LSM and two LSMs, right on his back. So, he's used to having a guy here with a long pole and a guy here. This is now much easier for him, right? He feels more comfortable now with just a face-off guy chasing him. So he's able to, doesn't get it off the first, scoop, which we would like, but what he's able to do is keep the ball going his way, right? Ball is right here in the air. He's able to keep it going with him, keep his momentum going away from the guys chasing him. And because he doesn't have possession yet, the attack is not released. So he's able to scoop right before the restraining line, make a big turn, to over his right shoulder to put it in his left hand. And we've now, now he's able to escape, and he's got a guy right here, right? Unfortunately, in this scenario, he doesn't deliver a great ball. We cut it short to save him. But this is a really good job by him to make this big turn, get his hips going back upfield. And all he has to do is put a little touch on this ball. And to be honest, we're off to a 5-on-4, right? We've got 1, 2, and our attack down here of 1, 2, 3. If we put this on his ear and possibly even on the ground to make sure that it gets to him and doesn't go flying by him, we're in a really good position. And it's because he kept his poise, scooping the ball and making that big turn, right? So I've got only a couple minutes here. I'd like to open it up to, some questions about facing off, about, drilling face-off guys during a high school practice that you may not have enough guys, or, the full team face-off that I've talked about before, but I'd be happy to answer questions about those. So any questions, you can put them in the chat. If not, we'll leave Coach Hutchinson some time to play some walkout music. All right. No questions. It doesn't look like. Going once, going twice. Sold. All right. Thank you, guys. Jonathan Adlam, does he have a question? Or is he just typing the word question? It seems that he was just typing the word question. Oh, wait, he's typing. Here we go. We have one question. Sorry, Coach Hutch. Sorry, the question is coming in for those of you wondering what is going on here. So he says, so I've been oversimplifying for my guys. If you can't win the clamp, make it dirty is his advice to his face-off guys. And I don't think that's wrong. I think it's good to simplify it in that sense. So what you're trying to do here is giving them some tools to help make it dirty and not get a penalty. Because there's nothing, losing face-offs and losing clamps is frustrating. It's even more frustrating to lose clamps, lose face-offs, and then get penalties on top of it and have to be man down or never even get to compete for a ground ball. So these drills are designed to help you give them some tools and skills that allow them to make the face-off dirty. Because you're exactly right. What you want to be doing is making it really difficult for the guy winning the clamp. And you just want to make sure you don't want to oversimplify it to the point where you're saying do whatever you can, because especially as you're saying, young freshmen and sophomores in high school are going to be, probably take that a little too literally and throw some illegal checks or do some things that are going to end up, costing your team more than just a face-off. So simplifying it is really good. And I think you have to shape it in terms of it's not just about the face-off guy. So he can't think that he has to win the ground ball or else he's letting his team down. It has to be a 3-on-3 and then a 10-on-10 battle into a ride or competing for the ground ball in the way you practice with the wings. And we can talk about that in another webinar. But you're right in the sense that you want to simplify it, but you want to make sure that you're giving them, the correct tools, the correct skills, and the correct drills to work on making it dirty. Don't leave it up to chance, because that'll end poorly in most instances. So I hope that answers your question. We're going to let Coach Hutchinson go now. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me via email or Twitter. My email is william_corrigan@fas.harvard.edu. Happy to answer any face-off related questions. Coach Bergman just put it in the chat. Thank you, Coach Hutch. On to you.